Death is the one truth that unites us all. No matter who we are, how powerful we become, or what we accumulate, death is the final visitor we cannot escape. She accepts no bargains. In Mexico and across much of the Americas, this truth takes a striking and unforgettable form. Santa Muerte, the Holy Death. She is not a saint because the Catholic Church said so. She was never a living woman whose biography could be traced, nor a martyr canonized for miracles. She is something older, stranger, and for millions, far more comforting, the personification of death itself. Before we begin, an important disclaimer. I am not a practitioner of Santa Muerte devotion. This exploration is meant to be respectful and educational, sharing history and context rather than instruction or appropriation. The devotion to La Santísima Muerta belongs to the people who live it. My role is to honor their stories and help outsiders understand. For some, she is terrifying, a skeletal figure with a scythe in hand. And for others, she is the most tender and dependable spiritual ally they will ever know. She is the ultimate equalizer, death embodied, whose reach is vast and impartial. Her presence does not pause at wealth, fame, or social standing. It passes through boardrooms and back alleys alike. Race, gender, religion, power, and privilege all lose their weight in her shadow because she comes for kings and commoners, saints and sinners, beloved grandmothers and forgotten strangers all the same. Everything that seemed to matter in life, status, titles, possessions, it all becomes irrelevant when she arrives. But Santa Muerte is more than just a reminder that we all die. Over the past few decades, she has become one of the most compelling, misunderstood, and rapidly growing spiritual movements in the Americas. Her cult, and here the word cult is used in its original sense, meaning a system of devotion, has emerged at the crossroads of Catholic tradition, Indigenous belief, and contemporary struggles for dignity. Her following has surged, especially among those who feel unwelcome in mainstream religion. The poor, the criminalized, the queer, the undocumented, and those living on society's edges. For them, she is not an abstract memento mori, but an active protector, a mother, and a fierce friend. Outside these circles, though, Santa Muerte is often reduced to headlines: narco saint, cult of death, occult danger. News outlets love to photograph her shrines in lurid colors and link her to crime or sensational superstition. Pop culture sometimes co-opts her as edgy aesthetic, a skull face tattoo, a Halloween prop, or a music video backdrop. All of this misses the heart of who she is to millions of real devotees. Behind the smoke and sensationalism lie a rich cultural and historical story about survival, justice, and unconditional love. If your only exposure to Santa Muerte has been those headlines or striking images, it's easy to misunderstand her. In truth, she is a centuries-old folk saint whose devotion speaks to the deep resilience of marginalized people. The poor, the forgotten, the criminalized, the queer, the undocumented, all find in her an ally who asks for no paperwork, no confessions, and no apology for who you are. Her altars rise in modest apartments, roadside stands, migrant shelters, and border towns. They glow with candles of every color, offerings of bread and tequila, and cigarettes and apples. The prayers left there are raw: protection on a dangerous journey, justice after abuse, love without judgment, and safe passage in a hostile world. This isn't simply a story about a skeleton. It's a story about how humans make meaning in the face of danger and exclusion. It's about a love so fierce it embraces those that the world rejects. We're going to move beyond the sensational headlines and take a deeper look. Together, we'll trace Santa Muerte's origins from ancient indigenous understandings of death to colonial Spanish images of the Grim Reaper and the long, hidden centuries when her worship was forbidden. We'll unpack her powerful imagery, the scythe, the globe, the hourglass, the rainbow of robes, the offerings, even the smoke in the drink. We'll explore why her devotion has swelled to millions, especially among those the church and the state have left behind. Santa Muerte, the Holy Death, is unlike any other saint you may know. Catholic saints are canonized humans. They lived, they died, and they were recognized for holiness or miracles. Santa Muerte never lived. She has no baptismal record, no martyrdom, and no biography. She is death personified, an eternal force given form. In this way, she's closer to mythic figures like the Greek Thanatos or the medieval Grim Reaper. Yet her personality is shaped by centuries of Mexican and Latin American culture. She is cosmic and timeless. Devotees say she existed before the first human drew breath, before kings built palaces or colonizers crossed oceans, and she will remain long after empires fall. Her fairness is magnetic. You cannot bribe or flatter death, and so Santa Muerte listens to the desperate without judgment. She grants favors, shields the vulnerable, and accompanies the dying, not out of sentiment, but because she is the one certainty that touches all. This impartiality is why she's called the ultimate equalizer. All the hierarchies humans build, wealth, nationality, skin color, gender, criminal record, they all crumble before her. When you stand before Santa Muerte, you are simply a soul seeking an audience with a great judge who plays no favorites. Her names reflect intimacy as well as awe. La Flaca, the skinny one, and La Niña Blanca, the white girl, are affectionate street nicknames. La Madrina, the godmother, marks her as a protective matriarch. In darker, more defensive prayers, she may be La Niña Negra, the black girl, invoked for absolute, even fearsome protection. Folk stories sometimes describe her as one of the oldest beings in creation, older than angels, second only to time itself, which is why she is often seen holding an hourglass. Santa Muerte's story is one of syncretism, the blending of traditions when worlds collide. Long before Spanish ships reached the Americas, indigenous peoples already had rich death cosmologies. Among the Aztecs, death was not only an end, but a passage requiring guidance. Two deities ruled the underworld of Mictlan: Mictacasihuatl, Lady of the Dead, and Mictlantecutli, Lord of the Dead. Mictacasihuatl was often shown with a skull face, bared ribs, or a body of bone. Mictlantecutli was skeletal, presiding over ceremonies to ensure safe passage for the deceased. The Aztecs held great death festivals, precursors to today's Dia de los Muertos, with offerings of food, flowers, and incense to nourish the souls of the departed. Then came the Spanish, bringing Catholicism with its own death imagery. The Grim Reaper, La Parca, hooded and scythe-bearing, and confraternities devoted to a good death. In early modern Spain, Confritas de la Buena Muerta prayed for the grace to die reconciled, having confessed and received last rites. Churches displayed frescoes and sculptures, reminding the faithful that death spares no one. Kings and paupers alike kneel before the skeleton. Indigenous Mexicans saw these imported symbols and recognized something familiar. But rather than abandon their cosmology, they wove the images together. The Spanish Reaper merged with Mictlantecuhtli's sovereignty, and out of that weaving came a figure who was both European and profoundly indigenous. For centuries, this devotion had to stay secret. Colonial authorities, especially the Catholic Inquisition, suppressed it fiercely. Archival records from 1797 mention clandestine skeleton images seized and destroyed by the church officials. To openly worship death was dangerous. It threatened church teaching that Christ's resurrection had conquered the grave. So Santa Muerte lived in whispers and back rooms, in candles lit and prayers spoken where priests could not hear. Despite suppression, she endured. Marginalized people, indigenous, poor, and criminalized, kept her close as a forbidden ally, a hidden saint for those denied safe access to official religion. For most of the 20th century, Santa Muerte devotion simmered quietly in Mexico's barrios. By the 1960s, her image was familiar in some working class neighborhoods like Tepito, a tough, vibrant district of Mexico City. Families kept small statues behind curtains or in bedrooms. Candles burned discreetly for protection or healing. The turning point came in 2001. That year, a woman named Enriqueta Romero made a radical choice. She placed a life-size robed Santa Muerte statue on the sidewalk outside of her home in Tepito, fully public, impossible to ignore. It was an act of spiritual defiance, a declaration that this hidden devotion would no longer be ashamed. Her shrine became a pilgrimage site overnight. People came to pray, leave offerings, and seek blessings. Scholars note that this moment coincided with a wave of insecurity and violence in Mexico. Organized crime was rising. The state felt distant, and the church offered condemnation rather than comfort. Romero's public altar broke a dam. Suddenly, a clandestine folk saint was visible, and millions recognized a figure who had long been theirs. Since then, the devotion has exploded across Mexico and into the Americas. Shrines flourish in Los Angeles, Houston, New York, Guatemala, and Colombia. Migrants carry tiny Santa Muerte statues across the desert for protection. Street vendors tuck her image beside their cash box. Truckers fasten her to their dashboards for safe miles. She is no longer hidden. She is part of the urban and spiritual landscape. Once you've met Santa Muerte, you quickly realize that her image is not random declaration. It's a visual language. Each element tells a story or promises a particular kind of help. The scythe is the most recognizable. To outsiders, it's a grim signal of death's harvest. But to devotees, it's also a tool of mercy and liberation. They say the scythe cuts away curses, enemies, and obstacles. It severs toxic ties and clears the road for new opportunities. Someone may light a candle before a Santa Muerte statue and pray for the scythe to cut through a lawsuit, a violent relationship, a spell cast by a rival, or simply bad luck that won't break. Unlike the distant abstractions of God's plan, the scythe feels immediate, a blade swing on the devotee's behalf. Her scales represent justice, but with nuance. For some, they are literal. She balances wrongs done to the poor, abused, and falsely accused. For others, they're about karmic balance, weighing a lifetime's good and bad and tipping towards fairness. People facing court dates or unfair bosses often place a tiny gold scale on her altar, hoping she'll adjust the imbalance of power in their favor. The globe proclaims her universal reach. She is not bound by church walls, national borders, or immigration papers. Migrants cross deserts and rivers carrying her image because, as they say, La flaca no necesita pasaporte. The skinny one doesn't need a passport. For truckers, sailors, and travelers, the globe means her protection follows wherever you roam. And then there is the hourglass. Outsiders see it as a symbol of death's inevitability, but devotees use it more actively. They may ask her to speed the sand when they need fast results, a job offer, a legal ruling, or a lover's return, or to slow the sand when someone's health is failing or danger looms. Death becomes not only inevitable, but something that can grant reprieve. Color is another crucial language. Unlike Catholic saints, who usually wear fixed colors, Santa Muerte appears in robes of many hues, each with ritual meaning. White represents purity, peace, spiritual cleansing, and healing. Red is for love, passion, and also quick action or justice in matters of the heart. Black is the ultimate protection, power against enemies, invisibility from those who would harm you. Gold is for success, prosperity, and financial help. Green is for justice in legal issues and luck in business deals. Blue is for wisdom, academic success, and mental clarity. And rainbow and multicolor is for balance, covering many requests at once. A devotee may own several small statues and dress them according to what is needed. Black when danger feels close, gold when hoping to pay rent, red for when praying for love to return. Offerings deepen the conversation. Cigarettes and cigars aren't mere props. Smoke is believed to cleanse and carry prayers. Tequila or mezcal is a shared drink, a way to honor her and seal a petition. Apples symbolize health and renewal. Bread feeds the saint's presence, and coins invite prosperity. Fresh flowers show respect, often white roses or marigolds tying back to indigenous death rituals. Some folklore says Santa Muerte appears as a stunningly beautiful woman if she chooses, but she keeps the skeleton form to protect humans from longing for death too soon. In this telling, the bones are an act of mercy, a way to keep love at a safe distance while still answering prayers. Santa Muerte's following today is vast and deeply personal. Estimates range from 10 to 12 million devotees worldwide, though the true number is hard to count because devotion is informal and often private. What unites them is the promise of unconditional acceptance. LGBTQ plus communities often describe finding in her what mainstream churches have denied them, a place to pray without judgment. In her eyes, gender and sexuality have no weight. What matters is sincerity and survival. Altars in queer households might mix rainbow candles with her classic white figure, asking for love, safety, and freedom from discrimination. Undocumented migrants carry her across borders. In the dangerous crossing between Mexico and the United States, where dehydration, violence, and border patrols threaten, Santa Muerte is a silent companion. Small pocket statues and laminated prayer cards slip easily into bags. Truck drivers and rideshare workers place her on dashboards, trusting her to guard them from accidents or crime. Sex workers, street vendors, and those in informal economies, people who often face violence without police protection, turn to her because she does not moralize. She protects survival itself. As one devotee told a researcher, "The Virgin gives me hope for heaven, but Santa Muerte keeps me alive here." Even some police officers and soldiers quietly keep her image. Facing daily danger, they pray for safety in the line of duty, even as official institutions condemn her. This duality, protecting both hunter and hunted, underscores her impartial nature. Another reason her devotion thrives is accessibility. There are no cathedrals demanding donations or priests to gatekeep. Anyone can start an altar with a simple statue or even a printed image, a glass of water, and a candle. The contract is direct and personal. Devotees promise things like, "If you protect my son until he gets home, I'll light a candle for you every day." Or, "If you help me find work, I'll bring you flowers." Faith here is intimate and negotiable, not bound by institutional rules. It's common to see Santa Muerte standing beside official Catholic figures on home altars: the Virgin of Guadalupe, St. Jude Thaddeus, Jesus Malverde. This isn't confusion, but inclusion. People honor church saints for heaven and eternity, but they rely on Santa Muerte for urgent, messy, earthly problems. It's a spiritual division of labor born from lived necessity. Such grassroots devotion inevitably collides with the Catholic hierarchy. The Church does not merely dislike Santa Muerte, it officially condemns her veneration. Cardinals and bishops have called it blasphemy. The theological objection is clear. Christianity teaches that death is a result of sin, conquered by Christ's resurrection. To venerate death itself is seen as denying that victory. Mexican bishops regularly instruct priests to warn against the cult of death. And in 2013, Cardinal Gianfranco Ravasi, then the head of the Vatican's culture department, publicly labeled the devotion a degeneration of religion. Sermons and pastoral letters urge Catholics to avoid her. To offer an acceptable alternative, the Church often promotes St. Jude Thaddeus, patron of lost causes. But many feel St. Jude must ask permission from God, while Santa Muerte, as death embodied, acts swiftly and decisively. In chaotic or dangerous lives, people want direct power, not bureaucracy, even divine bureaucracy. Ironically, every condemnation strengthens her outsider identity. For people already rejected by church or society, the church's denunciations confirm that Santa Muerte stands with them. She becomes the saint who will not shut the door. Perhaps the most persistent misunderstanding is the label narco saint. Outside Mexico, especially in US media, Santa Muerte is often portrayed as the patroness of drug lords and cartels. Crime scene photos with her statues make for dramatic headlines. TV shows and films turn her into an emblem of villainy. The reality is more complex. Yes, some criminals pray to her, just as criminals in other cultures pray to St. Jude, Jesus Malverde, or even St. Michael. Her impartiality makes her appealing to anyone living on the edge, legal or not. But to reduce her entire devotion to cartel worship is wildly inaccurate. Scholars have documented that the vast majority of her followers are working class people seeking protection, healing, jobs, and love. Crime stories dominate because they sell newspapers and suit political narratives. Linking her to cartels allows governments and the church to dismiss a massive grassroots movement as mere criminal superstition. There's also irony. Law enforcement and military members in Mexico and the US borderlands quietly venerate her. Officers have been documented carrying Santa Muerte medals for protection on dangerous patrols. Soldiers light candles before their deployments. But death guards everyone in harm's way. It does not pick sides. Understanding Santa Muerte requires accepting this complexity. She is a neutral force, answering desperate pleas for survival, whether those pleas come from a struggling mother, a migrant on a perilous journey, or someone navigating a dangerous underworld. Labeling her as narco misses the profound social reality that births her devotion. Visit a Santa Muerte shrine and you'll feel something alive. The most famous is a street altar in Tepito, still maintained by the Romero family. On the first of each month, devotees gather in droves. It's not a quiet mass. It's vibrant and communal. You'll hear mariachi music, prayers chanted aloud, the pop of fireworks. The air smells of incense, candles, tequila, and cigarette smoke offered in ritual. People carry personal statues dressed to match the larger altar's robe color for the month: white for cleansing, red for love, black for protection. Vendors sell candles, charms, and statues nearby, making the event part sacred and part street festival. Offerings pile high: flowers, apples, bread, bottles of alcohol, personal items needing blessings. Petitioners might touch their objects to the saint's robe or place photos of loved ones in danger. Many devotees describe a tangible feeling of being seen, of finally having a spiritual ally who won't judge them. Her feast days bring especially large crowds. November 1st, long associated with death and the ancestors in Mexico, is celebrated with processions and music. August 15th, another major date, draws thousands to public altars. Smaller gatherings happen everywhere: in homes, in secret rooms, even in prison cells. Wherever people feel vulnerable, Santa Muerte appears. Santa Muerte's meteoric rise in the 21st century is more than curiosity. It's a mirror held up to our times. She thrives where three crises collide: insecurity. In places where governments fail to provide safety, people turn to a saint who protects unconditionally. In places of institutional failure, when official churches offer condemnation instead of welcome, people seek a spirituality that meets them where they are. An existential dread. In a world of pandemics, violence, and rapid changes, she offers certainty. Death is frightening, but it is honest. It does not lie. Here lies a profound paradox. Santa Muerte is, in many ways, a life affirming saint. By acknowledging death, her devotees say yes to life, to love deeply, to fight for fairness now, and value every day. The hourglass reminds them that time is precious. The scythe says suffering can be cut away. Her very presence teaches courage. Her movement also testifies to human religious creativity. Faith is not static. It adapts when institutions leave people behind. Santa Muerte proves that people will build their own sacred spaces when none are offered. She embodies a grassroots theology of survival. For outsiders like us, the lesson is respect. Whether you find her unsettling or inspiring, she is not a curiosity to be mocked. She is the living faith of millions who have built altars in the absence of welcome elsewhere. To reduce her to crime or Halloween decor is to erase their resilience. Santa Muerte is complex, controversial, and deeply human. She is not sanctioned by the church, but she is loved by millions. She stands with those in the margins: the migrant, the sex worker, the queer youth, the struggling parent, the soldier, the street vendor. She is feared because she refuses to play by institutional rules. She is loved because she accepts without condition. If you're new to learning about her, approach with humility. This devotion is not an aesthetic trend or a dark curiosity. It is a vibrant spiritual tradition born from centuries of cultural fusion, resistance, and hope. It belongs to the communities who built it. In the end, Santa Muerte reminds us of a truth we'd rather ignore. Death comes for all, but she also whispers a counterintuitive gift. Knowing this can make us live more honestly, love more fiercely, and demand justice while we still can. Thank you for walking with me through this journey. If you found this exploration illuminating, consider sharing it with others who may only know the sensational headlines. Learning the real story behind Santa Muerte means not seeing only a skeleton, but the survival and dignity of countless people who refuse to be forgotten. Thank you for joining me on this journey into the world of Santa Muerte, a powerful reminder that death is the great equalizer, touching every life without judgment. If you enjoyed exploring the history and stories behind La Santissima, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this video. And if you want to keep diving deeper into the folklore, rituals, and mysteries that shape our world, I'd love to have you along for the next chapter. Until then, stay curious, stay spooky, And don't forget to stay weird.